A Nexus phone with a 3D camera, an oversized iPad, and a Pebble with a color screen. Things must really be getting weird in the world because none of this, well, most of it, all of this actually is perfectly reasonable. But I am still pretending it's very exciting if you're into mobile technology, because it is, if you are, and you found your head in the right phones. That's a joke about headphones that I just wrote. On episode 153 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast where we discuss news and opinion from the world of mobile technology. That's smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, all that stuff you wished you had when you were a kid. From Boston, Massachusetts, I'm Michael Fisher, and I'm joined today by Stephen Shank from Nouveau Jersey. Welcome back, sir.
How do you do, Monsieur Fisher?
Very well, thank you. We'll be having the Tri Martinis. Jules Wong is out today, so I'm running the board, such as it is. And Adam Dowd will be joining us for a short stint later on to talk Pebble, and maybe then I'll be able to say a whole sentence at once. For now, the time is 1:35 p.m. on the Eastern Seaboard, or it was supposed to be. It's 1:40 p.m. on the Eastern Seaboard. Good afternoon from North America. This episode of the Weekly is brought to you by lynda.com. Learn something new and make yourself a better human with over 3,000 courses on everything from, you know what, I'll let you discover it. 3,000 mystery courses for you to explore with your big, beautiful brain lobes. All the courses at lynda.com, whatever ones you choose, are taught by experts, and new ones are added to the site every week. So no matter what areas of your white-collar, key-clacking existence you want to get better at, make this summer the season you finally do it. Get your free 10-day trial by visiting lynda.com, lynda.com/pocketnow. Remember the /pocketnow. It's important. And thank you. Stephen.
Yes?
Tell people how this sleek telecast of a speedster works while I reacquaint myself with the control panel here.
Well, we have not been making it particularly easy for you guys to follow us live. Keep switching days and times, as is our wont. But if you've been a loyal Pocketnow Weekly listener and you're catching us now live in Google Hangouts, please do participate with us. We want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about a lot on this show. If there's anything that's maybe not clear, anything we haven't gotten to yet and you would like us to, just go over the little Q&A thing there. Type in your Q. We will do our best to give you an A after the best Qs are voted up by the fellow listeners. If we do not get to your question live on the air, you can always shoot us an email later on, podcast@pocketnow.com. We're going to answer a few of those listener mails later on in the program, and maybe we'll get to yours on a future show, so either Q&A or the podcast@pocketnow.com email. One way or the other, we want to hear from you guys.
Good call, Stephen, and that is correct. We do want to hear from you. We are gradually filling up on the live stream queue here. Remember when this was like new and exciting, Stephen? Remember when Hangouts was like a new thing?
It still feels like a new thing, the way it works so smooth like?
Yeah, well, yeah, in that respect, yeah. But like I've been doing a little bit of periscoping recently, and a very little bit. I've only done it twice. But like that feels like new and novel and exciting and fun in the way that Hangouts used to. And now Hangouts is just like a massive like pain. I don't know. I mean, it's always been a massive pain, but now it's a pain without the offset of the loveliness of the novelty of it. So it's like, anyway, how did last week go? I wasn't here.
Oh, that's nice.
Was it good?
I didn't really get that on this side here. The novelty.
You didn't really get what?
I didn't have that like that honeymoon period with Hangouts.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Like I remember stumbling upon one of the first Hangouts we did. It was like the precursor to the Pocketnow Live, and Brandon and Anton are just like hanging out in a room with Jaime, a virtual room, and like readers and viewers are like coming into the room and saying hi, and it was just randomly cool.
It's all chat roulette, you know.
Yeah, I remember chat roulette. Hey, I want to know how last week went. How was it? Was it a good show?
Yes. As long as there's no follow-up questions to that, yes, it was a good show.
That's all I wanted. You have found the answer that I was looking for. So thank you for providing it to me. We have the usual rundown. Adam Dowd's going to be joining us way later, as I mentioned in the intro, to talk about the Pebble Time. First, we're going to get some news. And before we even get to regular news, we're going to get to breaking news, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. This is some stuff that happened. Joe Harlow and Stephen Elop leave Microsoft. Holy crap.
Yeah,
So Microsoft's in the
changing
midst
of
of
the Nokia guard.
yeah, massive reorganization happening here. Stephen Elop, once speculated by a couple people, not I don't think any of us, that to take over Microsoft before Satya Nadella showed up, is heading out, and so is Joe Harlow, who is Microsoft's head of phones. This is news coming to us from, in this particular instance, The Verge reported on this around noon today. I interviewed Joe Harlow when we went during the launch of the 640. Say again now?
There's been an internal email going around, the one Satya released for the employees to tell them about this change. Someone.
Oh, for how long? Sorry.
I don't know. I saw it just after coming back. Who has it?
Roger. Yeah, so let me say, Harlow had been with Nokia since 2003 and had been on the leadership team since 2011, came aboard with the Nokia acquisition, of course, and her vacated seat is going to be sort of folded into this new division where Lumia is going to be folded in with Microsoft Band, Xbox, HoloLens, and Surface, and it's all going to be headed up by Windows chief Terry Myerson, according to The Verge.
Mm-hmm.
So what's interesting about this, to me at least, is that there are many different takes on what this means for the future of Windows Phone. Obviously, we've got the previews rolling out all the time now, none of which I'm keeping up with for various reasons. We talk about it every week, it seems. But they're not making it easy. That's true. You had to roll back to 8.1 for this latest one because of a migration bug. But I'm not using it because they're even more previewy than usual. They've got all kinds of stuff is broken in them, and I sort of I don't want to ruin my Windows experience that way. But so you've got that. You've got these other developers sort of pulling their apps from the Windows Store. You have Windows growth in the negative, and you have these two camps that are starting to form. One of which is saying, listen, Microsoft is going to get out of hardware, and they're preparing everybody to do that on the mobile side. They're preparing to dump that news on everyone, or at least they should. And in that camp, notably from Stratechery, Ben Thompson on Twitter, who I've linked to in the rundown, has some really, really compelling arguments in that respect. The one I linked to specifically saying, Elop out, hardware buried, and I bet a write-off is coming. The fact that it only took Microsoft 20 months is progress. So he's got some really, really fascinating writing on that side of stuff. On the other side, you've got analyst Avi Greengart, who says if Windows 10 Mobile is only needed to protect Windows 10 on PC, it's easier to do that without requiring Windows phones to be profitable. His argument being that Microsoft needs to be in mobile, and even if it's losing money, it can afford to do that, because if you're not in mobile, you're not in the game. An argument that Charles Arthur makes as well. Charles Arthur of The Guardian. He actually argues both sides in a piece that linked to it.
In Nokia's devices and services for that, and just to keep this ball rolling for another couple years until all the other OEMs suddenly decided, oh, we're going to keep doing Windows Mobile 10 phones, even if Microsoft's not making any?
Well, keep in mind that acquisition happened. That was one of the last acts taken under Microsoft's previous administration. That was a Ballmer move. That was before this sort of massive reorganization had really picked up momentum. And I think it's Charles Arthur who mentions, or it might be Ben Thompson who says that this was that Nokia acquisition was sort of dumped in Nadella's lap as this thing, because it was Ballmer who wanted to sort of force everyone into the Windows ecosystem rather than gradually move the Windows ecosystem onto other platforms so other people would have access to it. So fundamentally different strategies. So I don't know. I hope that they're still working on Windows 10 Mobile. Obviously, we're getting these new preview builds all the time. They're still shooting for, what is it, Stephen? A later this summer, maybe later this year release for the mobile version of Windows 10?
They're still not saying anything with much specificity. The latest confirmation, I think Gabe All made some comment when the most recent preview release came out, and it was just, it's coming later. It's not coming when the PC stuff happens. They've said this multiple times, but as for exactly when, it ball's in their court, we don't know.
Roger that. Yeah, and we will figure it out. The other bit of breaking news is the AT&T is to be slapped with a massive fine. Yeah, do you want to really quickly?
I am not up on the details here. It's something
about simple
bandwidth limitation
Yeah, so apparently AT&T was selling some unlimited data plans beforehand, and some of the grandfathered ones and so on. And while they were being sold as unlimited, they were in fact throttling the data beyond a certain threshold. And as a result, the FCC plans to fine them, according to the Wall Street Journal, plans to fine AT&T $100 million
Yeah,
over
and
capping of
AT&T is
unlimited.
all up in arms, saying basically, you guys knew we were doing this, because there's always been the conceit that these companies, even if they're not doing bandwidth shaping in order to drive people to certain subscription tiers, they can still do reasonable network management. If someone is trying to pull down every last drop of bandwidth from a tower, it only makes sense to retard their connection so that other users can have any at all. And AT&T is saying,
Right.
that's what we were doing here. Everybody does it. You guys knew this. This is baseless.
Yeah,
And
they
is
say
some
that,
line there, like how much is reasonable? And I don't know that
of
it's
course,
been defined very clearly.
Right, and I think T-Mobile does that pretty well in terms of its TOS. And for all I know, AT&T's boilerplate stuff may be the same. But I remember reading my service agreement for when I switched to T-Mobile US, and they said, "Yeah, you have an unlimited plan, except for these exceptions." And the principal exception was basically like torrenting massive files for hours and hours a day. But AT&T straight up says that the FCC previously identified the practice of throttling these users as a legitimate and reasonable way to manage its network to benefit all customers. So AT&T is really pissed that the FCC is not only reversing its stance apparently, but also hitting them with a massive fine. The FCC says they're violating the transparency rule of the 2010 Open Internet rules. So that is wild. This has been
about the consistency of how these rules are applied. That I can imagine there being a case where AT&T starts downgrading these connections after a certain point, and then just gets to doing it out of habit, regardless of the actual draw on the tower at the time. Like if you're using X number of megabytes in a Y period, they're going to throttle you. Whereas if you're doing it at 4 a.m. and no one else is online, then it's not a reasonable practice to do. And maybe that's where this is coming up. I don't know.
That could be. Yeah, AT&T is this fine is planned, so who knows if it'll actually be implemented. It's a monster, yeah. So we'll see how that happens. Yeah, it's weird because AT&T is back in my mind right now because I've been using the Galaxy S6 Active, which we'll talk about later, which is an AT&T exclusive, and I've been using that all over town alongside the LG G4 that they sent me, I think, as well. So it's just been interesting to be back on AT&T's network and be like, oh yeah, there's LTE everywhere here in Boston, and it's really fast. That's cool. It's sort of true for T-Mobile as well, but it's a little more true for AT&T in some parts of Boston. Let's see if this drop will work and get into the regular news once we're out of the breaking block. Will it work? Yes. And that's serious business, so you know we're moving on to it. It is the regular news hour. There are rumors that we included in the headline, so I guess we have to talk about them, even though I'm woefully disinclined to do so because we'll be talking about them forever. But Stephen, tell us all about how Apple is going to make a 42-inch iPad or whatever.
Well, now that the iOS 9 preview is out, everyone's been digging into the code, looking for signs of what it might tell us about future devices. We saw something earlier about some camera features that might turn up on the iPhone 6S that were hinted at by the camera software there. The latest things to emerge are details that seem to point at these long-standing rumors about larger than the current 8.9-inch, 9.2. Where's the iPad at right now? 9.7? Somewhere up there?
You are correct. It is 9.7.
9.7, yeah. Getting maybe a 12-something or even larger device. We've seen the existence of a new keyboard software buried in there. What does this guy add? An extra row column? Adding more keys, yeah, to fit a larger on-screen real estate. That would make sense if you had a device that with all this extra screen dimensions to spare, especially one being presented as a device being used for productivity business purposes. We're having a more full-fledged, granted still not very useful and tactile keyboard, but where this might be an advantage. It seems to be in iOS 9. And we've also seen evidence of support for higher resolutions, pointing up to 2732 by 2048. resolution support baked in there. It's possible that could be the native resolution of this new iPad. Maybe they're just going to a higher res for normal iPads. We don't know, but it's in there, and it would definitely support something up in this 12-inch class.
I got distracted in the middle of that because I was thinking about how my camera is still working.
It is not
Sorry.
working out for you.
No, it's good news. It's good news for once in that my camera's still working because I'm using the stock one and not the Microsoft bolt-on that I normally use.
Confirming your suspicions about the Microsoft camera that you did not want to be true.
Yeah, that's true. So I got to get another camera and put it up on the tripod there. And I'm also running the Hangout through Chrome, but we know that it wasn't working before. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Mark Washington says, I'm using Project Fi with my Nexus 6. With the new Nexus phones, will I be able to use on Project Fi, and will it have USB Type-C? Listen, Mark, that's 2 questions in one. That's cheating.
Man, we went off those iPad rails quick.
Yeah. The Project Fi, I'm certain they're going to broaden it to new phones, and I would be stunned if they didn't broaden it to the new Nexus phones. Will it have USB Type-C? Nobody knows, but the render had USB Type-C, so it probably will. We're going to talk about that in the mail, too, anyway. Yeah, Mark Penn left as well, says Thomas View, the Scroogled guy. Thank goodness. That was the following up on our Microsoft news from before. Yes, that is great, because that was the most juvenile and stupid ad campaign that I had seen. Man. Yeah, if they're funny, but it wasn't funny. That's the problem. So anyway, let's keep moving on down the old timeline there. And I think I wanted to mention the camera thing is because now I don't have as many screens as I usually do, so I'm a little slower in switching tops, and I'm sorry.
This is what I felt last week. I'm constantly looking up and down and need a teleprompter or something.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just need multiple monitors, which I can do when I have an external camera, but since that's a POS, I can't do it anymore.
Don't you usually have like when you're in the studio?
I've got 40 million over there, but I don't want to, I just want to keep going. There's a new Nexus phone that's rumored. Oh my God, of course there is. There's always going to be a new Nexus phone. But this one could have a 3D camera. Stephen, please, I want you to tell me that I've put this in the rundown in error, because this did not come from a credible source, and it has since been debunked, because this sounds ridiculously stupid.
Yeah, I don't know how credible the source is.
I'm negative Nancy James.
As for debunking, no. It's viable. We're talking about this as an option. The idea that we might get multiple Nexus phones has been sort of bouncing around for maybe a month or two now. And it seems like LG and Huawei are the two big front runners. Huawei might make a larger Nexus 6-ish device, whereas LG presumably makes something a little more akin to the Nexus 4 or Nexus 5. But now the rumors have been talking a little more about what sort of hardware upgrades we could see online, because it sounds like there's going to be a real focus on bringing new hardware features to the Nexus line. They're not just going to be these very, very simple down to business slates, and that could mean the arrival of fingerprint support, which makes a lot of sense considering it being baked into Android M. And that's been mentioned for this phone, but also this weird 3D camera implementation. And we saw 3D cameras a while back. LG has made 3D camera phones before for that hot second when auto stereoscopic displays on phones sounded like they might be something consumers were interested in. They are very, very much not. And we're hearing that this LG-made Nexus could get a stereoscopic camera around back that also has some sort of infrared imager, which to me, it sounds like we're getting into like Project Tango-ish hardware here, which Tango tablet has that like array of multiple sensors in the back for its reality scanning stuff.
Right, that hit my head as well. I was wondering if that was going to be because that's a cool implementation of a 3D camera. Like, it's not for a consumer. I don't think consumers will have any use for it.
I don't know if it's throwing a lot of hardware at a limited usefulness feature, and that's why Tango's been such a developer thing. It's not very cost effective to put all this stuff for a feature that a lot of third-party software probably won't take advantage of, and we don't really know what good it's going to be for. We can use this for making awesome panoramas. Is it going to be used for gathering depth information to improve the quality of regular photographs? What's the end game here? And the rumor isn't really talking about that at all.
I've got a question from the Q&A from Victoria Zimmerman. How will they name the new Nexuses? There's already a Nexus 7. What do you think? This is what we've been asking for, well, like 2 years now, and I still don't know. They can't call it, like, my initial thought was like Nexus Alpha, but Samsung already stole the Alpha
I kind of
name.
think they're gonna have to go for like
great.
names. We're not gonna go to like half numbers. We could throw in a number and a letter, maybe.
Maybe.
There hasn't been a really good sign of that. We have an idea of the internal code names of these devices. They're, the fishy things that Google likes to use, but there hasn't been any sort of strong evidence pointing to commercial names one way or the other. Kabunk.
What? I dropped my phone. Well, speaking of Nexus, I dropped my Nexus 6 on the desk, and it was really loud. Sorry.
Of course everyone. It was, because that phone is a gigantic.
It's a monster. But I really like using it, but I think I've said that too much on this show, so I'm gonna chill out on the Nexus 6 a little bit because I like it a lot, but you don't care right now because I've said it too much. But I was just thinking about something. What if Google started an entirely new line of sort of kitschy nicknames for its hardware to mirror the one it already has on its software? We have dessert themed Android versions. What if the new Nexuses were like I don't know. We're like variants on like old antique automobile names or something. Like it's going to be the Nexus Renault, or maybe yeah, I hope not. Or like old airplanes. Like the Nexus Comet. I think would be pretty cool. The Nexus Lockheed TriStar might not catch on quite as well, but could go with something rather interesting. Ooh, old television sets. The Nexus Admiral. There we go. Ranks. That's what it is. Going to be naval ranks is what's going to be the next thing.
And they'll have like stripes on the back and a little.
That's right. Yeah. They'll have shoulder stripes, and they're going to start with the Nexus Ensign this fall and progress through the lieutenant grades over the next few years.
And the next Ensign going to have some horrible demise fall upon it the moment you take it out of the box.
Only the red ones. Only the red ones are going to do that.
Red screen.
But the 3D camera, Kirayuki asks, how would a 3D camera work? 3D in general just seems like a gimmick. And yeah, we've seen these before. I mean, a number of years ago, 3D cameras enjoyed a brief half season in the sun on Android with the Evo 3D, and there was an LG one
LG
too.
Optimus 3D.
The Optimus 3D, that's right.
Yeah.
And they ended
just
up.
Then they seem to be just sort of complement the 3D screens in the phones. We have these 3D screens. They're kind of neat, but you need 3D content to consume. So here is a tool to generate your own 3D content. But this rumor has been clear. This would not be a 3D screen on this Nexus phone. Oh, one thing it suggested there might be some sort of pseudo 3D effect that sort of sounded to me a lot like the Amazon
Fire phone.
Yeah, doing that sort of parallax shifting. Which
was really cool.
A 3D camera to be doing that, though, really. So
no, you don't. But at the same time, if you're putting a 3D camera on a phone, and that's still a huge if at this point, if you're going to put a 3D camera on a smartphone, it strikes me that not including a 3D display to view the 3D content is like the biggest fail of fails you could possibly do. I mean, I understand.
I don't know, though, because if
why?
The intent there is not to use it for imaging, but gathering data about the environment, like with Project Tango, then it makes sense. It may be a lower res camera that's just being used to generate spatial depth information that's used for apps in other ways. So it's just giving them like Z field data and not necessarily an XY pixel plane.
Right, but Project Tango is gathering data for a specific purpose. It's gathering that data to give to developers so that they can build, stuff like augmented reality games and all that stuff. What's the use case for delivering such data to a consumer?
I cannot tell you.
Yeah, and I understand where Kiryuki's coming from when she says it just seems like a gimmick. Yeah, but there are examples in history of gimmicks. Things appearing like gimmicks initially, and then suddenly being transformed through a compelling, transmogrification into a consumer product that's really good.
Why does TV need to be color? You can see black and white TV just fine.
Right, indeed. Yeah. Why would anyone need a smartphone? And you could make the same argument about smartwatches, but I don't want to go there quite yet because that will be jumping the gun, as they say. We're going to learn more about that. It is coming up to be Nexus season. We haven't heard much in terms of like these are the first leaks that are starting, the very first leaks that are starting to trickle in, because the Nexus comes right after the Moto X, and the Moto X leaks have started to come in earnest now, right?
Yeah, they've been picking up.
So that's the next thing on the rundown. And the new Moto X may be low res pics, but they corroborate prior pics as well. Since we ran this story, have we gotten any more any more Batar pictures of the new Moto X?
Not that I have seen. And honestly, the more I look at these guys, so you can see the comparison if you click through in the rundown here of this new, it's just a little thumbnail that well, I had to scale it up so it's at least visible here. And it sort of has the same feature on the back, this elongated bar with the dimple at the bottom, camera up top. That was on one of the first Moto X leaks we saw a few weeks back. There's some evidence in a leak since then that sort of suggests that it's there as well. But as I look at all of them, I'm not sure that the dimensions are lining up here. You look at all three of these, Michael, do they seem like that stripe is the same size and same proportion to everything else in the phones and all of these?
Honestly, I can only see, I'm stuck in the mobile version of the site, so I can only see the center one in any sort of clarity at the moment.
It's close. I'm just wondering if maybe more than one of these might be, specifically this new one, this might be some fan-made render derivative of the existing ones. That said, though, it would be a weird way to do this. The fact that it's such a small, a low-res file kind of suggests to me it is genuine, because if you're going to fake it, why not fake something that's a little easier, more accessible for people, that they're going to, bite this that you're dangling out there. And we've seen leaks before that come from internal sites where I was just playing with the URL and, hey, this phone wasn't supposed to be displayed yet as a thumbnail. So I'm leaning towards this might be real. And also we can see grills at the top and bottom. Then again, that doesn't really tell us much with Motorola. It could be another fake one up top and not real stereo.
Oh, that's right, because the Moto X 2014 has only a speaker down below, but still, it's still front facing, and I'm still okay with it because it's just better than. But on the S6 Active, having a rear firing speaker again has just been like.
Oh, you've been not enjoying that?
No, I have not, because I've been using it to play Ingress recently, but I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Ingress.
Yeah, man. We haven't talked much about that. You know that I discovered it 2 weeks ago.
I'm making fun of you because this is like what, 10 years old at this point.
What are you talking? It's like 2 years old.
Yeah, whatever.
It was launched in 2012 or something like that. Yeah. Source Size says, Michael, it seems you like the Nexus 6 more than when you reviewed it. Did something make you change your mind about it? No, I still think it's like. I did. Wait, you say I did seem to like it a lot back then?
In my mind, you've always been a huge proponent of the Nexus 6.
No, like that's just half of that is just me being like Motorola, yeah, good times. But when I reviewed it, I found it to be. I still have the same issues that I had when I reviewed it, which is that, yeah, it's the next logical step for Nexus. They had to start playing in this phablet space at some point or another. It was stupid to expect them not to. I don't get why people don't get that. Well, don't agree with me there. No. But you know what I mean? Like just tactically, strategically speaking.
Yeah, market is what the market is.
Yeah, but it is a monster, and wearing any kind of like, if it's not the middle of December and you don't have 16 layers all with pockets in them to support the massive bulk of this phone, it's not comfortable to carry around. No. It's got a huge screen, it's got a huge battery, it's got the loudest speakers ever, it's got great sound quality, and so I'll talk about some of that in the After the Buzz episode coming up, because I can't wait to do it. It's louder than everything. It's louder than every other phone. It's louder than the One M8, the One M9, the One M7. It doesn't have as good quality as the One M9, but it's loud. Motorola knows how to make a loudspeaker, man. And when you put two of them in, boom. So anyway, the After the Buzz on that is coming up. But before we go away from sound quality, I had a phone call the other day with Brandon Miniman.
Well, how's he doing?
And he's doing wonderfully. But aside from just the contents of that call, which I can't talk about, the quality of the call stopped me in my tracks 20 seconds after we connected. Brandon asked, he interrupted me to ask if I was on an AT&T phone. And I said, yeah. Why is this sound? It sounds like a Skype call or on a really good Wi-Fi connection or something. It was totally HD voice. And it was the Galaxy S6 Active, which is an HD voice-enabled device, unlike the Nexus 6 on AT&T, strangely, or at least my Nexus 6 on AT&T, because we hung up and I tried on that one and it was crappy. But anyway, going back to the Galaxy S6 Active and HD voice, it was my first in the wild HD voice call, and it was such a surprise. And I loved it. I found myself wishing that more of us talked on the phone more often
Because
it was just
you need a compatible phone on the other side, right? Too.
Yeah, he was on his iPhone 6 Plus or something like that, I think. Yeah. So crazy. It was just awesome. I just wanted to mention that. That is not, unique to AT&T. All the carriers are rolling out some variation of voice over LTE, but boy, it sounded good. So there.
For the future, baby.
Indeed. What's next on the thing? They're going to make a metal version of the G4. Is this true or not? Or is this bogus? Bogus.
The rumor itself seemed very unsure of what LG might be up to here. We know that LG is coming out with another flagship later this year. What that's going to be is up to debate. There's been some suggestion it could be this G4 Pro, which I think the G4 is already a Pro version. I don't know how much larger it can be useful here, but I'm suggesting that LG might be playing around with new material options, and that this was calling it a metal cover, which sort of suggested to me it'd be like the G4 and like a backplate deal. I don't know if that might have been a translation issue, and we're actually talking about a full-on metal body here. But it also suggested that LG might, this seems like untested waters for the company, and it might be more comfortable trying this with not so high profile of a device, and it may emerge on a slightly lower tier phone, which I don't know if that means the G4 Pro might not be the flagship that we're talking about for the fall, or if they might try it on another phone first. But yeah, there might be a metallic option, and like real metal, not the what do they call the metal option for the G4? It's like a plastic thing with metal.
Oh yeah, like the ceramic-esque or the metal finish. They call it metal, but it's not. I just realized, Steven, is your
Michael?
Yeah, you're not coming through terribly clearly either. Are you?
Exactly. This is.
Yeah. This is just this should totally be happening. Is what we're saying.
Tune in for the high quality download later, folks. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah. Although you might be, though. You might, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Disappointment is a fickle and unpredictable thing. A question about your copy of the rundown. Does it still have the Pebble Time block above the news? Because I thought I fixed that.
Pebble Time.
Caching on the internet is weird,
no, I got it at the bottom.
Wow. So, I've just reloaded the page in my browser on mobile, and it is still showing the old version of the rundown.
Well, it's the caked version.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't get it. I like these. I like just hitting Q&As. This is fun. Normally we save these for a bit at the end, but I kind of don't care today. Hyper Horse, you're
easy. Whatever.
What?
We're just going loose and easy today, man. Everything goes.
That's exactly right. Why can't two bros just chat? Just chat about phones, bros. Somebody says we're buttheads for not talking about the iPad Pro. That's why you got to go back and listen at the beginning. And I just found out that you can't ban people in Q&A, which is weird. Your mic has serious static, Jason.
Is he going to appear now? Is it like a Beetlejuice thing?
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. I was distracted by somebody asking about the 1520 and 1020. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah. We'll get back on the horse really quickly, though, because we got to get through some more news to get there. The OnePlus 2 pricing is being rumored as we start pushing into the middle of June. Quarter 3 2015 is within sight, says Stephen Shank, and a quarter that is set to bring us some of the most anticipating phones of the year, including OnePlus 2. So what's up? So what's the pricing looking like it could be here? Because there was a rumor earlier that it was going to get nasty. It was going to get into the $400 range.
Yeah, they were talking about some kind of serious spec increases and a corresponding rise in price. This new report suggests a little more moderate spec bump, and at the same time a price that won't be growing so much. And if you do the direct, they provided a price in Chinese yuan. If you did a direct currency conversion, it seemed like it was growing, but go back, look for what the OnePlus 1 started selling in China when it first arrived there, and it's exactly in line. So that sort of implies to me that we could see the same base level pricing in markets all across the world, which would mean something like $300 for the phone in its most low-end storage configuration. Presumably, we're going to get lots of options. 64 gigabyte again, hopefully, maybe even more. But yeah, no quad HD, no 4 gig RAM. It's the sort of smartphone you would expect to get for $300. Probably 1080p. I forget what they said specifically about the SoC, but
Probably weren't they rumoring an 808 at one point?
If I were building the phone, that's what I would go with. But
yeah, because we know it works fine on the G4.
Yeah.
Am I still all crackly, by the way?
It's super crackles, man.
I can't. I started this podcast fed up, and I'm just gonna throw everything. I'm just gonna go be a park ranger.
You're just like a bowl of cereal, chock full of milk, crack one away there.
I'm gonna kick something, not something alive. Would you tell everyone about the stupid fat Xperia that Verizon's getting for some reason? And I'm gonna try and figure this out.
Yeah. So the Xperia Z4/3 Plus saga continues. Verizon has gone the carrier exclusive route, and it's getting a phone that's not quite like one that anyone else has. So, first we had the Z4. That's sales have already begun in Japan. And then several weeks later, we learned about the Z3 Plus for everybody else, which is the Z4, just with a different name. Sales are starting of that guy a little bit later on. But Verizon says, no. We just have to be different here because we are Verizon, and you will build us a phone that only we will have. And so we get the Z4V. It is actually kind of an improvement over the original Z4 and /Z3 Plus. Probably the most notable change here being the arrival of a quad HD screen. It's still a 5.2 incher, just like the Z4 has, but bumping up from 1080p to the 1440p range. And beyond that, and Michael called this a fat phone. Yeah, it's a little bit fatter. It's going to be 8.6 millimeters up from 6.9. So if you can tell the difference between a phone that's X and a phone that's X plus 1.5 millimeters, then you're not going to like this guy very much. It also gets a little bit heavier. And sadly, it doesn't seem like they're doing a lot with all this extra bulk here. You might assume if the phone's growing, and granted, 1.5 millimeters is still a 1.7 millimeters is still a sliver in reality. But with the phones already being pretty slim, you would presume maybe that could be a room for a larger battery. And yeah, it's bigger, but to the tune of like 70 milliamp hours. It's not a significant bump here. So with the return of an 810 SoC, I wouldn't look for any improvement in battery life. If anything, the Quad HD screen is just going to make a decrease in battery life. So it's a mixed bag, but you do get built-in wireless charging support, which is absent on both the Z4 and Z3 Plus, and it's one of those cool hybrid things. It'll support Qi, it'll support Power Mat, so anywhere you drop this guy, I mean, if there's an embedded wireless charger of any kind, you put this on a regular desk, it's not going to magically charge, but you go to a Starbucks or anywhere where they have the Power Mat, that maybe not the most popular thing, this guy's still going to use it. And so we don't have a date just yet for when this thing's going to land, but sometime this summer. Black and white color options. No Xperia purple, sadly. That's a bummer. And of course, now people are all upset. This should have been the Z4. And admittedly, in comparison, the Z4 is looking a little bit more like it should have been the Z3 Plus, with this guy getting the resolution bump. So it is a head scratcher strategically.
Yeah. Head scratchers. Steven, I love it. You can vamp like the best of them. Thank you. And
hey, I can hear you again.
I'm on the default system mic now because the computer has stopped recognizing my Blue Yeti.
Of course it did. See, once you started moving away from the external accessories with the switching the webcam, it just started snowballing here. They're all giving up on you.
Yeah, everything's. I'm giving up. I'm giving up on.
You can hear the defeat in your voice. This is great.
Yeah, I want to go. Yeah. What's the next news story, Steven?
It's the story where Michael takes a match to it and just burns this whole.
I'm gonna burn the whole fucking house. What is the next story? Because I'm not tired of hearing your voice yet, and I don't think anyone else is.
What we got here? Lumia stuff. Lumia stuff. Oh yeah, we got this funny little leak here from our good friend Evan.
What's the one after that?
Stay retired here. You just want to
he cannot.
Lumia?
No, I want to be around for Lumia, but there's something I have to do first.
BlackBerry.
The BlackBerry. Can you talk about the BlackBerry Passport running Android? And I'll be back in 15 seconds.
I can talk about the BlackBerry Passport. So BlackBerry, Android, been all over the rumor sphere over the past week or two now. Not two, but a week or so. We've been hearing that BlackBerry might make a smartphone running Android. It could arrive later this fall. Some rumors saying we might have already seen this phone. It could have been that cool kind of edge-looking weird slider that they showed off at, I believe it was MWC. So we kind of have two rumors in one here. Well, not in one, but we're swishing them into one because it's BlackBerry and we have a limited attention span for all things BlackBerry. We saw this phone. A Italian BlackBerry software dev posted this on Twitter. It sure appears to be the Passport, and on screen it indicates it's the Passport, except it's running Lollipop, not BlackBerry 10 OS. And you just see a very simple status screen here. This is something that would be very, very easy for someone to fake if they wanted to. So we have to approach this with the appropriate attitude. We're trying to see this as it's coming from a dev. He probably doesn't want to make a mockery of his career here. It would make sense not to post fake pics. So there's reason to believe this might be real. At the same time, it's super dark. We don't see anything of the hardware itself. Presumably it's a BlackBerry. Maybe there's like developer internal markings on there, and prototype BlackBerry do not show outside of the world here. So maybe there's reason for the darkness. I really want to see the video of this, just a little bit more convincing, or other pics, if they've done anything with the OS to make it stand out. This is stock Android. If BlackBerry has skinned this in any way, shape, or form to make it a little bit more familiar with people who have been using BB10 for the past year or two here. Right now, we just don't know that much about this thing.
Seeing the Passport gave me a little bit of PTSD. By the way, thank you for taking that, Stephen, because this podcast is now officially brought to you by Samuel Adams. I've graduated from Polar Seltzer, and I wanted to say that friggin', what is that called? Vintage, Venice.
We didn't get there yet.
That thing, yeah. Let's get there, because the Passport is a terrible device.
You're not liking the Passport?
No, I read it.
So interestingly shaped, though.
Yeah, it's interestingly shaped until you try to use it for something, and I'm convinced that everyone who uses the Passport and likes it is
wrong.
No. I mean, they're right in their own way, because I know some people who use it and like it, and who are really sharp people and really, really, really excellent people, but they're just not on the same plane as me. And I think the problem is that I was reading the BlackBerry story, that book that I told you about, Losing the Signal, at the same time as I was retrying the BlackBerry and the Passport, which just defies all of the fundamentals that BlackBerry laid out, and made for a really, really terrible device in the context of what they were trying to do with the originals. Sorry, I got distracted there because Steven's apparently having audio trouble now. Is that true, Steven? Let's not stick around to the chat. I want all this out. I want it all wide open in front of everyone. So you're getting some of your audio, my audio, in your feed.
You got one of your earbuds dangling a little too near the mic.
Oh, okay. Well, I moved a headphone back. But anyway, yeah, I think the Passport is crap. But that V phone looks like it could be something. What is it?
This is the curved screen slider DLE from MWC. Supposedly, it's codenamed Venice, and it may have some really, really nice hardware in there, like a 5.4-inch Quad HD display, 3 gig of RAM, snappy 808, and some nice cameras, an 18-megapixel primary shooter, 5-megapixel front facer. All that adds up to a very nice-sounding smartphone, regardless of the OS it's running. And if this is the curved screen guy we saw, then even if this is a BlackBerry 10 phone, that should be a popular model. We haven't seen this form factor from BlackBerry in a while now. Have we ever? Yeah, we must have.
The slider. Yeah, they made the Torch was a slider.
Yeah, years ago.
But
I don't. This hasn't touched. These specs are very interesting, though. They don't touch on several other very interesting parts of this rumor, namely that this could be the Android running phone and that this could be some joint venture with Samsung, which, based on that curved screen we saw there, would make a lot of sense. We know BlackBerry and Samsung have buddied up for some things in the past on the software side, so I don't know. It was reason to believe this might be possible, but right now, this is just so outside of what we expect BlackBerry to be doing with its hardware that I think a little more convincing isn't too much to ask for.
No, and what I like is that the company seems rather unafraid to take chances, to take risks now, and that is largely because I mean there's a bit less at stake now. I feel like as they've lost a lot of market share and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to be snarky. I just think
going out of business can be very freeing.
It can, right? But no, I really think that that they're much more open to stranger alternatives now, and this device could really be cool. But there is also a piece of listener mail that asks some specific questions about what we'd like to see from such a thing. So I think I'm going to move that on to. I'm gonna wait to address that.
Rundown, schmundown.
You know what I want to do? I'm going to have a little story between every news item now. What I want to do is have a podcast where I don't have to look at the screen, any screen, anymore. I just want to sit in the dark with headphones and a microphone and just listen to the conversation and have the conversation. Because that's sort of what we used to do. But now I've got all these distractions in the way.
What you want to do is a podcast and not this video Hangouts thing here. You want to do an audio capital P podcast.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's a lot more fun when Jules is here because Jules can run all that shit. So we're not going to change back because this is a really good format for what we do. But everything seems to be going wrong today. And I just realized that it's so asinine that you can't block people from the Q&A, like you can ban people from the comments section. What's next? It is the Lumia camera that we skipped over.
Yeah.
This is yet another upscaled thumbnail. It looks like this tiny little Lumia camera lens. What is it, Steven?
This is Evan has returned from retirement to leak some more smartphone jazz. We got what looks like the rear of an upcoming Lumia phone here with that big black camera Oreo shaped module. And we see some weirdness going on. What type of camera this is going to be is the subject of much debate right now. Is this the next 1020? Is this a lesser pure view design here? All we can see is a lens, and it doesn't look super huge. Then again, I don't think it's out of proportion to what the 1020 looks like. The more interesting thing might be what's going on in the flash department. And we see this 3 LED arrangement, kind of a red, yellow, red. So, multicolor temperature thing. But having 3 there kind of suggests to me this might be designed to be the successor to the 1020. Granted, no xenon flash. I don't know if that just wasn't cost effective or the ability to control color temperature is more valuable than just sheer light output. So maybe this might be a compromise between the two. And it might be a smaller thumbnail scaled up. It's a little wonky around the edges. It's not completely circular, which is
it's weird that it's weird that the lens is off center. Like you see a round camera module,
wasn't it?
Yeah, but the 1020 also incorporated the xenon flash that you just talked about, which added to the asymmetry of the whole thing. It didn't really bother me. But this looks like remember the McLaren? That's what this reminds me of. Remember the McLaren leaks? What was supposed to be the 1020 replacement that got canceled, but it had as big an Oreo on it, but it was a smaller 20 megapixel sensor or whatever. That was that. Oh, well, that looked like sort of like a weak imitation, and I don't know. I don't know why. Obviously, we have to see more than this blurry image to judge it, but
everyone
it doesn't look attractive.
New super high res pure view Windows Phone model here, and I don't know if the combination of this and our desires is enough to make this phone manifest into existence. If you all believe in fairies, they will exist, but it'd be nice, and it'd be a great way to premiere Windows 10. You get this nice new high-end imaging phone here. You've just upgraded your PC to Windows 10. Hey, why not give a spin on a new mobile OS? Try something different.
It's scary to me to think about what this new hardware is going to look like, because so many people, there's been so much brain drain since the Nokia acquisition by Microsoft. It's like so many of the people who made Nokia phones what they were are gone now.
Yeah,
up to and including today.
Microsoft's shown some very promising hardware design abilities in recent years. I mean, HoloLens is not something we'd expected from the company several years ago. Granted,
very true,
working on all this stuff, but it has me at least optimistic that Microsoft has the designing and hardware minds that it needs to pump out something a little bit different that's still very compelling.
Yeah, well, SourceSci is asking a question that dovetails nicely with what we're talking about. What do you want the successors of the Lumia 1520 and 1020 to have, and what do you think they need to have to attract consumers? And I just think they can't be derivative of old stuff. Like if you look at the Lumia 830, which I do every day because it's always next to my computer, it's sitting on a DT903 charging pad and running the technical previews that I look at from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this reduced 1020. It's like, okay, we took the aggressively beastly 1020, which was straight up ugly in some ways, but was boldly ugly and was at least unified. Mm-hmm. And we've mishmashed it up with elements of the 925 and this metal border, and it's got a removable back that sort of creaks and pops along where the camera lens is. It doesn't, and the camera lens is a big Oreo, but it's really not a very impressive sensor.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be an affordable flagship, but it's not that affordable. Yeah, so it's just this like this utter like 48-year-old like white collar underling compromise of a phone. And it can't be that, I think, is what the thing. The 1020, the 1520, these flagships, and the 830 wasn't meant to be a flagship. I'm under no illusions about that.
Yeah, it was.
But
it was supposed to be the affordable. That's what they called it.
The affordable flagship. Yeah, but you know what I mean. It wasn't meant to be the banner phone. The banner phone has to be. None of them can be perfect, but it has to be so impressive that you cannot help but at least want to go check it out. Like that's the 1020 succeeded in that regard because of its camera. I don't like Windows Phone, but I want.
You don't think doing their 1020 class camera on there, kind of rehashing what we got there, the kind of not the sleekest phone, but it made no compromises when it came to hardware. You don't think that couldn't prove to be another success?
No, it could, but we've already been there. We've already seen that. We've been to the phone that has a 41 megapixel camera, and I feel like you bring that around now. Like I did it at Christmas, and people were still impressed at it. Yeah, but it's going to get to a point where people are like, oh yeah, didn't they release one of those like a couple of years ago?
The question is, what's wrong with the 1020 now? It needs to be higher res screen and a slightly beefier SoC. That's really all we want changed.
The screen has to be not only higher res, but the bezels have to be reduced. Oh. The design language is, I mean, you can't do that again. Yeah. Adam Dowd is here.
Yeah.
Adam Dowd. Hi. Welcome to the Pocketnow Weekly. Waka.
I was just waiting for you guys to
gone flawlessly so far.
Okay.
So don't screw it up. Okay?
I'm going to screw it up.
Perfect. There's not a single problem about this broadcast.
All right.
Dowd is here to talk Pebble Time, so I think we need to blast on through the rest of the news. We'll get to talking about the Lumia stuff. It's almost Pebble Time time. How are you going to unlock your smartphone with your ear, Stephen? Amazon, what are you doing?
Next. Yeah, Amazon patented this thing, and it filed the patent back in like 2011. It's finally been awarded. Amazon has a system where your phone's supposed to recognize the shape of your ear to authenticate you as a user. And the science behind this is all right. The shape of our ears, the location of all the bumps and ridges, and where the ear canal is differs between people to a significant enough extent that it can be used kind of like fingerprints to authoritatively identify someone with, I think, 99.6% accuracy. So it might make a lot of sense to have a smartphone use this to decide if you're the user or not. It certainly sounds harder to beat than voice print or face unlock. Problem is, though, the implementation sounds a little wonky. Amazon's talking about using front-facing cameras on the phone to recognize your ear as you hold the phone up to answer a call, but I guess you talked to Brandon the other day. People clearly make phone calls still, but most of the time when you pick up your phone, it's not to make a call, in which case, what do you do to unlock it? You have to hold it to the side of your head and wait for it to scan you. It sounds super awkward, and considering that Amazon has not had, what's the word I'm looking for, any success with smartphones and the Fire Phone, I would not bet on it investing in another smartphone at all, let alone one that tries to do something new, especially with front-facing cameras. I imagine that's a very sensitive subject over in Amazon's design labs. So I have no faith in this thing coming to market anytime soon. Maybe someone will license it from Amazon. I can't imagine they would, though.
Is this one of those situations where just because you can do something doesn't mean you should?
Well, right, but this is also
it seems like an idea that would have really been great in 2003.
And I can see this, we have all these ways to unlock the phone. Some Amazon guy is like, oh, how about this is another one here? And Amazon's just patenting it for the sake of patenting it, and maybe 20 years from now it'll seem like a really good idea. And then Amazon's got the patent. It'll probably be expired by then. How long do these things last? But I don't know. It seems like just doing it for the sake of having
U.S. patents last 17 years. I know that much.
Okay.
While I'm thinking about it, somebody was asking how my play was going. I think it was Johnny Jacobs.
Is your play going, Michael? I hear it's sold out now.
It's going well. I actually got that notification as I was on this podcast, so thank you for asking, Jolly Jacobs. Yes, the Boston production of the Farnsworth invention is sold out for the entirety of the run. So I would tell you to come see it, but now you can't.
It's too exclusive.
If you don't have tickets, you can't come see it.
You'll have to Periscope it.
Yeah, yeah. Just going to set up my phone in the corner and Periscope it, and the little chats all the time. So anyway, it's going wonderfully. Thank you for asking. Finally, the 24 hours of the Galaxy S6 active video just went up. I meant to bring that phone in here a second ago, but I didn't. It is a Galaxy S6 with a rugged wraparound casing on it. I don't have one of the camo ones. I have a gray one, and I beat the hell out of it on video yesterday. And fun fact, it doesn't look any better after you beat the hell out of it. It's just as ugly.
It looked awesome to begin with. Oh.
No. But it handled. It handled it. Battery life is significantly better than the standard S6 in my so far 2 days of testing. Yeah, it's a 37% larger battery, which is terrific. And the fact that they've omitted the battery door, the removable battery door, means Dowd, for God's sake, there's a mute button.
Hey! Wait, what was I doing?
I just with an abacus, apparently.
It sounded like you were slapping the side of a giant pumpkin repeatedly.
What?
Maybe Stephen has a different
I don't think that was me, but all right, sorry.
Yeah.
I promise it was, but I'm just so glad to have you here. I forgive you instantly.
I appreciate that.
I wanted to say the Galaxy S6 Active, because it doesn't have removable battery door, it has one less major pain point or one less avenue for damage for water. Yeah, which is where the S4 failed and the S5 failed like crazy.
You got a knack for killing these things. I expect you to find a way to kill the S6 Active too.
Well, I thought I reached that point last night because as I was editing the video, I go and grab the S6 Active and I pick it up, I turn it on, and it starts flashing in the notification area that the dock is connected to the USB port.
And it's not.
No, there is no dock that's sold for it yet. So I'm like, okay, did I break another durable phone by doing what it's supposed to be able to handle, namely throwing it or dropping it from 3 feet onto concrete and dropping it in a bathtub and stuff? But no, I let it dry out. It has not done that since. And in my research of the problem, I found that's been happening since the S2. People have been having that error. So it looks like it's holding up quite well. It looks like it's not a bad phone so far. And can I tell you guys about one thing before we move into Pebble Time? There's a strange error that any listeners who are interested in the workings of Android or knowledgeable about the workings of Android can maybe help with, or at least might like to hear about. The active key on the side of the Galaxy S6 Active, when you press and hold it, you can set it to launch a specific app. I set it to launch Ingress because the Galaxy S6 Active is a pretty good Ingress phone. And when I launch Ingress using that method, it crashes 100% of the time. It crashes on launch. Unfortunately, Ingress has stopped. When I launch the app using the app tray, it works 100% of the time. It never crashes. So what is the difference? What is going on? Wait, beg your pardon, Stephen?
No, I have no clue.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like what's being executed differently in terms of pushing and holding a button or tapping an icon that's causing this particular title to crash. And I haven't been able to reproduce with any other title.
Well, I
and even
assume
Factory
that
Reset hasn't.
I'm guessing that pressing that button, there's some Samsung service that runs in the background that's constantly monitoring the hardware. When you do that, it looks up what you've configured. So maybe the fact that the app is being launched by this little Samsung snippet of code rather than through the main app drawer or however apps get launched manually, I assume that's where the issue lies. Really exactly what is going on that causes that problem. But
try Google Maps, try YouTube, try the geocaching app, anything that is going to launch similar services, because Ingress is a Google product. So maybe try a different Google product and see what happens. Otherwise, try something that's location-based. See if that does something. That would be my best suggestion for troubleshooting, is just think about the services that Ingress uses: mapping, GPS, severe lack of sense, and then try.
Wow.
Oh, come on, it's a geocacher versus Ingress.
I was going to ask our resident geocacher in chief what he thought of Ingress, the game. What do you think of it, Adam Dad?
I went out and met Ryan St. Andre, who's my podcast partner, when I went to go visit Orlando a couple years ago, and he took me out for a night of Ingress fun, and it forever changed me. It's
in the sense that what, you hate it, or
all those people are
it didn't change
freaking nuts.
that sounds about right.
Listen, I love it, so I'll have you know,
go
sir,
for it,
that I'm addicted. And in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be sick of it, and we're never going to talk about it again. But I'm enjoying it right now.
Sounds great.
Guys, is it time? Is it time to talk about the Pebble, guys? Because I think it's time to talk about the Pebble Time, which means it's Pebble Time, so it's Pebble Time. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I like that.
That was a great. You like that old chip tune? I like
Stop.
it.
Pebble Time. Do.
Pebble Time. So yeah, I've been bashing this thing against door frames. I'm going to start this out by saying that it looks like a toy. Dowd, you have the black one, yeah?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And I have the red one. And I have the red one right here. Is yours on you, Adam Dowd?
Trying to take it off.
You're pulling it off your wrist. Gotcha.
And I've got the best screen in the world right there, the best watch face. Go Blackhawks.
You're showing me a black blob of nothing. Press the backlight button, brother.
I'm working on it. It's the Blackhawks Stanley Cup champions right there. You saw it here first.
I will have to take your word for it.
Yeah. It's in the article.
Good. Yes, Adam Dowd has his 24 hours with the Pebble Time up. I have the Pebble Time unboxing and hardware tour up. My watch face, since we are apparently showing off watch faces, is Mario.
No.
Is Mario, and he every time the minutes change, he jumps up and hits the boxes, and that's lovely. Yeah, it's so. I don't know where to start because there's so much to talk about with this thing. So, Dowd, why don't you sum up your first 24 hours with this sucker, since it is your time that is the most precious today.
It's a great watch if you're not looking for something classy looking. If you're just looking for an average Joe kind of watch. As I said in my editorial, it's the kind of watch that you can wear to a party or doing yard work outside, but don't wear it to a fancy ball. Because it looks like a Casio watch from the 1980s. So, I mean, that's at least the impression that I got from it. So, but I do not disagree. Yeah, it's a good watch. I haven't had a lot of time to really dig into the nitty-gritty. I did have a couple of times when I was looking at it in direct sunlight, and I'm like, well, that orange on white isn't coming through very well. So, obviously I didn't have that trouble with a monochrome screen, but it does what it does pretty darn well, at least on Android.
So you mentioned looks, and I think looks are super important, much more important when it comes to something like this than a smartphone, which spends a lot of its time in your pocket. And I think a lot of people will choose utility over function when it comes over form when it comes to that stuff. But with a watch that's always displayed, I just want to have it sort of up on the screen here, and I mean, it's almost juvenile in a sense, isn't it? Isn't it almost like a kiddie watch from some angles?
Well, I mean, the red one.
Yeah. So the black one is a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it has a much more refined, not refined, but just not kid-like look to it. It looks like just a normal, kind of got weird lighting conditions going on here, but it looks like just a normal, a normal watch. I think the red one is a little bit cartoonish, if you will, which is why I did not choose that color. But I respect your choice.
I didn't choose it. This is a review device.
Oh, okay. Well, then I respect
the
Pebble's
steel.
choice.
My personal purchase is the steel. Yeah.
I was wondering about that, but anyway, yeah. So I think the red is a bit on the cartoony side and is begging for. But I also think that if you get a red Pebble, then maybe you're looking to get a different color band for it.
Sure, but even with the black one, okay, put it next to the Moto 360, which you did. Put it next to the LG Watch Urbane. Put it next to the Apple Watch, and I think in every single case, it appears to be, even if it's not overall, it appears to be the inferior product in terms of fit and finish. Would you agree, or am I just?
I would agree with that.
Snotty?
Yes, I would agree. So, well, so the Moto 360 is the type of watch that you can wear to a more fancy type party. So, I mean, like I said, this is very much an average Joe kind of look, which, I wear shorts and T-shirt to work every day, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. So, I don't know. Maybe.
Sure. Okay.
Well, not every day, but actually today it's really cold. But anyway. So I mean,
okay,
yeah.
all right. So the looks are gonna be your mileage is gonna vary as far as that goes.
Yes, if you're looking for a watch that you can wear to high society, don't buy this.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when I put it on my wrist, I was immediately struck by how not cheap it felt. Like in almost every dimension, it's smaller than the original Pebble, and it's very lightweight without feeling cheap. It's very thin, and this band, you wrote about it in your piece, Adam, but this band is like the softest thing ever. It feels like some kind of cloth rather than rubber on my wrist.
That has me worried.
Do you agree?
Yeah, well, Stephen, I'm sorry, just 1 second. I looked it up. It's actually silicone, which actually does kind of explain that a little bit. It's not just a straight, rubber. It's a silicone, which I guess there's a difference. But it's. I seem to remember the silicone having a more of a softer finish, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it's definitely very soft. It's very comfortable. We'll see how that is on 90-degree Chicago summer days. Because I'll definitely be wearing it then. But yeah, I mean, for now, it's really comfortable to wear.
Yeah, I don't know. Soft touch plastics in general make me nervous, and I'm sure actual materials they use are going to matter greatly. Don't you guys notice they tend to wear really poorly over time, or at least stain very easily? Maybe I'm just.
I mean, they're not as badly as the leather band on the Moto 360.
Sure, but as opposed to a harder plastic. I feel like they're
but I wouldn't.
Yeah, but then you're wearing a plastic handcuff. I mean,
exactly. What was it? That was one of my complaints about the Alcatel One Touch watch, which had a very sort of rugged plastic that was sort of not very flexible because it had to carry the cables and stuff inside for the charging port. But it was not as comfortable, nearly as comfortable. I mean, this is very, very, very comfortable to wear because it's so soft and just profoundly stretchy. It's like Apple's fluoroelastomer on the Apple Watch Sport, which is also very comfortable.
And I suppose on any watch, the band's going to be, to some degree, consumable, so there's an expectation that it's not going to necessarily be the most durable thing.
Right, absolutely.
And they've got the great quick release on this as well, so I just popped that off just with this, which you probably can't see very well, but this quick release kind of slider on here, which makes a lot of sense. And that accessory, that power port on the back is also an accessory port for future expansion, which we don't have any expandable bands because they don't exist yet, but
they will.
That is going to be an interesting thing from a hardware ecosystem perspective.
And that's actually a really solid. That's actually a really solid magnetic connector for the charger, unlike the first generation Pebble. So I'm definitely digging that.
So okay, yeah, I saw that you wrote about that and. So the cable holds on nice and tight. It does, and that's great. And the cable itself is made of the same soft silicone, so it actually feels really expensive and nice. And it's a Linguini cable, which I like. But I have been having charging problems.
Yeah?
It won't stay charging. Yeah, like I'll move it around and it'll like stop charging if I breathe on it wrong. It has to be like left alone and not touched.
So for those who aren't familiar, is this a physical like spring-loaded pin system?
It is. On the back of the unit are the two charging contacts bracketed by what I believe are two magnets or possible just metal points for the magnets in the cord.
I'm not 100%, so it must have charged for me, okay? So maybe it's just your unit. Although, actually, it's kind of weird that I'm at 100% since I've been off the charger for, I don't know, what, 7 hours now? I would have expected to have been at 99 or 98% by now. So...
Welcome to Pebble Time, brother.
I wonder if this might be a early adopter woe.
Perpetual motion smartwatch.
It could be. Go ahead.
Thermodynamics.
You know what's great about latency? I'll list all the things that are great about latency. Just wait for it. Nothing. I'm sorry, I'm looking for when I took this thing off the charger. I took this thing off the charger at 10 a.m. yesterday, so it's been off the charger for 28 hours, 29 hours so far, and I'm at 80% on mine right now. I mean, that's been one of the greatest things about Pebble, is that they will last forever thanks to that e-paper display.
Yeah, well, the day I got it, it just shipped to my office, and I actually left the charger at work, not even thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll be okay.
Wait, that's
right.
There's not an e-paper display, is there?
It is an e. It's.
I got it wrong the other day.
I got it wrong the other day. It's e-ink but it's not e-ink. It's an e-paper. It is an e-paper display.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. That's what they're calling it.
I Googled that right before I submitted my article, so I know it's e-paper.
Yeah. There you go.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't screw it up.
Let's talk about software a little bit. The new innovation here is, of course, the timeline, which lets you... Wait, is there anything like incriminating on my calendar here? No, there's great news on my calendar, so you all get to see it. So when you're on the watch face screen and you press down, you will jump into the timeline view, and then you can see what's coming up next on your agenda. As you can see, I need to ship an LG G3 to a lucky winner today. Hooray, hooray. Yep. And then as you continue to scroll down, you go through the future, and it'll be like, okay, well, the sun is going to set at this time, and here's the rest of your appointments. And then if you continue to go, you'll go to tomorrow, and then you'll go to the next day. And I noticed, Dowd, that you mentioned the animations. They're just adorable, aren't they?
They are cute. I even put an animated GIF in my editorial, so you can all go check out the animated love. But yeah, they are really cute. Just switching from the main. Go ahead.
What's the frame rate like? I mean, I think of e-paper, I think of ghosting. How many frames per second can
it's really snappy. It's really quick. And there's actually a lot of watch faces that...
Is it side-lit?
So it is, I believe it's backlit.
How the hell do you know backlit e-paper? I am confused as all H.
Well, I guess you'll just have to
order one. They did it on the Yotaphone. Didn't they? No, they didn't do it on the Yotaphone. That was one of my complaints.
Yeah, you can't.
I honestly don't know, but I will say that it's a lot like old BlackBerry backlights in that it's not very powerful. It is a rather dim backlight.
Those displays and the old ones.
Yeah, exactly right. But I love the animations because they are coded snappily. They are executed very snappily. There's no ghosting on this panel.
Yeah.
And they're also smart. Like when you tell it that you want to snooze notifications, like this ostrich shows up and buries its head in the sand. it's adorable. I mean, So I quite like the software, and Pebble, of course, has its big ecosystem of watch faces. Go ahead, Adam.
I was just going to say it comes from the WebOS design team, so of course it's going to be adorable. So because they all work for Pebble.
What do you mean it comes from the WebOS design?
Well, they all work for Pebble now. They're the WebOS team. Pebble hired them. They're the ones, as far as I understood, that designed like the timeline deal. Am I crazy?
Don't remember that. But wait, I'm starting to vaguely remember. I don't think you're crazy, no, but I got to look it up so that people who haven't heard of it get the full story. Dowd, tell us more about the software while I'm doing that.
Okay. Well, it's I put it in my article. I mean, the timeline interface is nice for people that live and die by their calendars. I don't. I get sports scores and sunrise and sunset, and that's about all I have in my calendar. Unfortunately, I'm a very, very lonely man. But it's nice because the new operating system is backwards compatible, so all the apps that you used on your original Pebble will still work on the new Pebble OS, which I could not find a name for this OS. I don't know if it's Time OS, Timeline OS, or if it's just Pebble OS, or if it's just the new OS. I swear I looked at like 20 different sources and saw 20 different names. So I'm just calling it the Pebble operating system, or the new one. And speaking of legacy apps, my 20-minute timer that I set when I first came on the podcast is about to go off. Just saying.
Roger.
But it basically, as in terms of like application launching and stuff, it works very similarly to the previous edition, the first edition of the Pebble, and I'm assuming the Pebble Steel as well, because I never had one, where you just push the center button to get over to your list, and then you can flip down through ESPN, multi-timer, stopwatch, find watch,
yeah, you're
app,
right. So
directions.
I should show the basically like the app launcher. You're correct. It's very straightforward. If you don't want to go to the timeline, you can do the center button there, like Dowd just said, and then you're basically scrolling down through cards, which provide access to whatever third-party apps you have installed and the built-in stuff as well, and all that stuff. And then have you used the voice interface at all? Because there is a little microphone on the side here, and I've been trying to use the voice interface, but not a lot of people have contacted me today, so I haven't been able to voice reply to anybody.
Oh, sad face. No, I did once. My wife texted me when I had the watch. Must have been yesterday, whenever the monsoon was. I don't remember when that was. But my wife texted me in the middle of a monsoon, and I was able to do a voice reply, and it was actually very fast and accurate. So that's obviously a desirable quality in a voice interface. Did you have to install Android Wear to get that to work? I already had Android Wear installed, so you mean do you mean Android Wear or do you mean Aware? Because there's a Pebble app called Aware.
No, Android Wear. They give you during the setup process, the Pebble Time app says, "Hey, install Android Wear." Even though this isn't an Android Wear watch,
makes a lot of sense.
It'll make it work better, and I think it's because they're leveraging the voice API. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I already had it installed because I was using the Moto 360 before that. So, so it's fast and accurate, so that's nice. It's very limited though. I hope that they're going to open this up to do kind of like maybe not like an OK Google type interface, but something where you can initiate actions with voice. We're not there yet. Right now it's pretty much just replying to messages and emails.
Right.
So more to come, hopefully. But again, as I've long said since my WebOS days, judge not a product based on what it's promised to do. Judge it by what it does.
True enough. And you were not wrong about the WebOS team. Some of them moving to Pebble. I still got the story. Von Schack. It is Itai Von Schack and Liran Demir. Who were working at LG, where they had been doing interface and design for the WebOS TV. Before that, they designed WebOS for HP.
And I swear to God,
sure if they were original Palm people.
I swear that they were working on the actual timeline interface as well. I read that somewhere. So.
Oh, that's probably so. Yeah, and it's a solid interface. I'm going to hit you with one Q&A before you go. Did Pebble? No, that's not the right one. Wait. Hold on, I thought I had the perfect one for you.
Someone
Here
must
we go.
know something about this guy.
No, there are several. How does the Pebble Time compare to the Apple Watch, asks Source Sci, the Moto 360, the Gear S, and other Android Wear smartwatches? What do you like on it, and which of all the smartwatches there do you prefer? Dowd, I'm going to throw this one to you because I know you got to get out of here.
Yes, I do. It's a tough call. I will probably take... Is money an object? I guess that's the first question you need to ask yourself. Because I mean, the Pebble Time is $200. The Apple Watch is $350 to start. And Android Wear, that's a much closer competition, at least as far as price is concerned. If I had to pick one, I would probably, surprisingly, go with the Pebble Time. Now, granted, that's only after 24 hours, so it's really hard to make that call. I can almost live without the voice interactions because the Pebble Time pretty much does everything else that Android Wear does, and in many ways it does more because there's actually more of an app ecosystem for it. So, like for example, I can pull up directions to the nearest geocache on my Pebble Time. I cannot do that on an Android Wear device. So it's
does go
stupid,
both ways,
but
though.
there it is. I'm sorry?
Yeah, but thanks to Android Wear's powerful notification plugins, like it goes the other way too. Last night I was listening to a podcast on Stitcher through Bluetooth headphones. My phone was like across the room. I wanted to go stop it on my watch, which I could do on an Android Wear device, but I couldn't do it on my Pebble. So, you know,
Okay.
there's
you couldn't gain that feature through some new software.
Yeah, and
totally. And yeah, there's nothing stopping anybody from developing something like that, but it's just not built in straight away because it's
fair enough.
Yeah, I think the major advantage that Android Wear and Apple Watch will have over the Pebble is that Android Wear is developed specifically for Android and Apple is developed specifically for Apple. So there's going to be certain functionality that's going to be baked in to the corresponding watch, the wearable apps that either won't be there for Pebble or will take some kind of workaround or something. So it's going to be less intuitive, I think. So time will tell.
Yeah, that could be exactly right. Well, I think that's a well-rounded answer, and I'll have some more to add to it when I finally do the full review on the sucker. But we got to let you go, Dowd. I wanted to thank you. He was not scheduled to be here, folks, but he made the time for us, and we thank him for it.
Pebble made the time for me, so I make the time for you. Hey!
I see what you did there.
I don't think I can be on a stronger note, so I will see you guys later.
Take it easy.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll see you later. All right, so I just want to hit a couple more of these before we go into the mail and then eventually get out the dough.
I think that's an LCD, or that's an e-paper. I pulled up the FCC documentation on that. It described it as an LCD panel. I am super suspicious.
Yeah, you went to a strange cyber place in the middle of your sentence, but I got vaguely what you were talking about. Yeah, no, Pebble says it's an e-paper display. I mean, that's what they're saying in their press kit. Now, I'm not saying that they're right. They may just be simplifying for our benefit, but Pebble with the Pebble? I mean, wait, if it's just a straight up LCD, it can't just be a straight up color LCD because I feel like the power savings.
Low power LCD, but LCD is LCD. No shame in that, Pebble.
I want to say that it's pretty low res, but it's sort of like part of the culture though of Pebble at this point. It's weird because when I got the first Pebble and the app started to roll out and I downloaded them, I thought it was so cool that an app could, for example, crowd all this crap onto the screen, like the weather and the sunrise time and the date and all that kind of stuff. And it was like, it didn't matter that it didn't look all that good because no other watch could do it. But now we exist in this time where the Apple Watch has an amazingly gorgeous screen. The G Watch R has a really fantastic looking screen. Even the Alcatel One Touch watch has a fairly okay screen.
Yeah.
And this, while it's super readable and while it makes so much sense because the time is always on it and that's what a watch should do.
Plus.
It's also like you look at it and you're like, oh wow, that's really low res. That's really janky. It's really pixelated. And while it is kind of cool that it's part of the Pebble culture, like they've built that into their brand. All their brand is like 8-bit, graphics and
What is the res? Like 140 something?
I don't know. I have to look it up, but it's really low res. And even if the panel itself is not like, I mean, this is the last time I'm gonna hold it up to the screen probably, but like, I mean, just like look at the text. It's not, there's nothing crisp about it.
It doesn't look super refined. Doesn't seem like a forward, futuristic. You want something that feels like the watch that should be coming out a year from now, not the watch that's iterative from last year's.
Exactly right. And
5 years
it's weird, and this is where I'm going to get back to the Q&A bit, because it's strange because they went in sort of one direction with the Pebble Steel, which I thought was a really, really good looking smartwatch. And with the time, they've just gone in the completely opposite direction, rounded it, made it sort of look like an old television strapped to your wrist. And Dex Eve in the chat asks, did Pebble with the Pebble Time shoot themselves in the foot with the design language they chose? as the design of the watch face is toy-like for looks. We talked about that a little bit before. I don't want to retread it, but it's odd that Pebble decided to do, okay, we're going to do the Pebble Time that looks like this, and then we're going to do the Pebble Time Steel that also looks like this, but is made of steel.
Metal, but it's not a different design. It's just materials.
Yeah. So I do want to say that maybe I'm being a little too male-focused in my perspective. This is certainly, I would think that at least some women would choose to wear the Pebble Time over the original Pebble Steel with all its angles and stuff. Certainly we heard that HTC, that was one of their big motivators for changing the available color offerings on the 1M9 versus the 1M8. Incorporating the gold and silver was a conscious choice to demasculinify the offering. So I don't know. I'm going to ask, and hopefully they can get back to me in time for the full review. Can you interact with the Pebble Time other than using the side buttons? Isn't it clunky compared to interacting with the screen itself? Asks Istvan. You would think so, but I had a Pebble before, so I was used to already using the side buttons. Apple's introduced the Digital Crown, which is a side control. I think that's more elegant than buttons, but the buttons work fine, and they keep your fingers away from the screen while you're manipulating it. So, I mean, would a touchscreen be easier? Sort of, but it's not. It doesn't really irritate me in regular use. I'm fine with using the buttons on the side. At least right now,
it also contributes very much to the retro feel you've been getting from this.
No doubt. Yeah, that's probably very true. Kuel asks, isn't Pebble extremely limiting with functionality? In this day and age, aren't we always looking for what does more, even if we don't use it? No, not all of us. Example would be Samsung and the overbloated TouchWiz UI. So that's a good point. And my question would be, doesn't that latter sentence override the initial point? Like Samsung's TouchWiz is largely criticized because it tries to do, or it formerly tried to do so much and wasn't any good at most of it. So they've pulled back on that in recent iterations. So Pebble is limited by design. I don't think that that's necessarily a ding against it. I think if you can do a couple things
too close to the sun, it knows where it wants to be functionality-wise.
Indeed, right. Pebble Time versus Pebble Steel. Sometime, yeah. When is the new Pebble UI coming to the original Pebble and Pebble Steel? That's a really good question. I do not know. Stephen, did you know something about that or no?
No idea.
Gotcha. And thank you, Jason, for the backup there. And then finally, Dex. Sorry, this is Dex again. Would it have cost Pebble that much more to make it look slightly more professional? So to do a fake silver metal surrounding the watch face been nice. This is metal. This isn't fake metal. This is actual real metal on the Pebble Time, not just the Pebble Time Steel. And it's what is it? It's got a PVD coating on it to change the color. So no, they just decided to do that. They just decided to build it this way. And I guess the time will tell if it's a success or not commercially. So we will see.
It sure seems.
Thanks for your questions, guys.
The crowdfunding effort got.
That was what I was going to end on, Stephen. Yeah, like they're not struggling. They're selling a lot of these things. So what does that say, Stephen? Do you think?
There's clearly a market for these things. Not everyone wants a smartwatch that looks like a high-end regular watch that has the sort of display touch elements you get on a smartphone. Some people just want great battery life, readability, convenient access to notifications, and that's it. And Pebble clearly is delivering on that. So of course there are going to be some people and a lot of people who know exactly what they want. They're going to give the Pebble their money, and hopefully we'll keep on doing this. I don't see any reason for it to change course and try to emulate some of the other smartwatch players. It has found its own recipe for success. I don't think anyone else could come in and do what Pebble is doing now. The company's been doing this long enough now. It has this very clearly defined niche. But yeah, it's working great. Don't change what ain't broken.
Well, until not changing it breaks it. But that's another talk for another time.
Yeah, I feel like BlackBerry CEO from 5 years ago here.
Off topic, but what are your thoughts on Cam Bunton leaving Phone Dog? I hope he finds happiness wherever he ends up, and we'd like to have him back on the show sometime. So we'll do that once we figure out how all this interneting works. You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying?
I don't think we're getting any
Steven.
closer to that. Yeah.
No, never any closer to that. What say we do a little bit of listener mail? What say you to that? Just a little bit. That sounds great. That wasn't exactly the right one, but we'll call it the right one. Bong bong. Yeah. What?
Where were you going with the zipper sound effect?
So, fun fact: an Android, when you download a media player, it's very difficult to find a media player that doesn't autoplay your playlist. So every time I've tried to play a drop, it has been followed by a small chunk of the next track in the playlist. That's what's going on. Yeah. I know. I was looking. Wait, is there a Winamp for Android?
It used to be.
Oh, that's hilarious. Why did it get pulled? Sorry,
I don't know. Drama.
Stupid reason. Drama. Okay. Dram. Stephen and me got a piece of email that said this from Greg Vogt. With reports claiming that BlackBerry is working with Samsung on releasing an Android phone with BlackBerry features baked in, do you believe the dual curved screen slider that BlackBerry showed off in MWC is this BlackBerry-Samsung collaboration? And if so, what BlackBerry 10 features would you like to see make their way to Android? Thank you, as always, for your insightful and entertaining reporting, Greg Vogt. Greg, thank you. P.S. Will you review this device when and if it's released? Sent from my BlackBerry Q10 smartphone with Verizon Wireless. Yeah. Oh God, we absolutely would. But BlackBerry doesn't send us units anymore, so we have to get them from carriers. So there's that, which sucks, but whatever. I would love to review this sucker, but so we already talked about this earlier on the show. But the question that got this into the listener mail bucket was, what BlackBerry 10 features would you like to see make their way to Android? And my question has not changed on this since BlackBerry 10 was launched in 2013. The BlackBerry Hub, I would really like to see that find its way to Android somehow for two reasons. One, because I think it's the best notification management system I've seen. And two, I think the powerful brains on Google's Android team could find a way to make the Hub responsive. Because even on the powerful hardware of the Passport, like selecting 9 notifications and selecting mark red took like 5 seconds for the thing to execute. And I'm talking about marking emails as red, guys. Like this isn't something that when it's this slow at launch and it's 2013 and it's on a BlackBerry Z10, you're like, okay, that sucks. You guys are supposed to be good at this, but it's a new product, so yeah, it's probably, it'll probably be fixed in the next update. And 2 years later, it's still a slow-ass piece of software. So that's embarrassing and stupid. But the Hub itself, the concept of it is genius, and I just love it. What about you, Steven? Do you have an answer to this? Do you know enough about BlackBerry 10?
Dude, I ain't used no BlackBerry 10.
Damn.
I'm using WebOS than BlackBerry 10, and I use WebOS for 7 minutes.
Well, then you, friend, have missed out.
I got it.
No problem. Why don't you read the next one? Thank you for your email, Greg.
Sure. Antonio Trejo writes in, I know most OEMs have Type-C USB planned for 2016, but who among them will be the first? Maybe the Moto X 2015 coming in for the early lead? Windows 10 coming out of nowhere? Please ramble on. That's why I've been listening. Since the too spooky for me, well, hashtags you put in parentheses when appropriate into proper grammar, they will, Stephen Shank. They will not. And I got some opinions on hashtags that could fill a podcast themselves. 15. P.S. I've been holding out with the Nexus 5 and iPhone 6 Plus combo in vigil of a Type-C USB Android device. Dude, they're going to happen. Who's going to be first? Moto's
I want to see if your guess is the same as mine.
Oh, jeez. I'm saying the next Nexus phone.
Me too.
Yeah,
I'm saying that too. I think it's got to be Google that takes the first step to do this.
Yeah, it's a prime candidate, and it would make
Samsung,
sense. Yeah,
it would make a ton of sense. It's like destined for the Nexus phone, and I feel like we saw. No, I don't feel like. I know we saw this at. Oh my God, what's Google's WWDC?
I/O.
Thank you. I was there. Like
it's
I was
got
at
letters
I-O.
in it.
I know. I'm like, oh my God. No, we saw this. We saw a render in a slide of like what looked like a Nexus 5 with a USB Type-C connector. So it seems like they're gonna do that. even if it's not released in that specific
I like
hardware.
the idea of a Windows 10 mobile device doing this as well. I think more than any other, well, no, maybe not more than iOS, but definitely more than Android. There's this very tight relationship between computer hardware and smartphone hardware that we're going to see emerging with Windows 10 with Continuum. And it would make sense for Microsoft to push this with its, laptop making OEM partners. We want to see USB 3.1 on your devices. We're going to do the Type-C on the phone here. We're all going to sell a lot of cables. This is going to be great. I can see Microsoft having the reach to pull that off.
Yeah.
I want to, though.
Yeah. I just got a Q&A here from Noah Demers. I'm so happy that I finally get to watch the weekly live. Summer break is awesome. Man,
it ain't summer yet.
No, it is. I mean, it's as summer as it's going to be if you are a teacher or a student. And that just made me so nostalgic for summer break. Sometimes I just
you didn't have to do work for like months at a time.
That was so awesome. Yeah. And I remember thinking as a kid when that happened, like watching adults like asking adults, inane third grader questions like, what are you going to do this summer? And then the adults being like, basically going to do the same thing I do the rest of the year, kid. And just thinking how horrible that must be.
Daily grind.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm fine. Listener mail number 3 is, what do you guys think, asks Colin, of the way MMS is handled? Downloading of messages, which doesn't always even work, and then having them show up in a group chat can get really annoying. Thoughts? Steven, sounds like you've got some thoughts.
Not really. I don't do MMS. Because I do Google Voice for everything, and Google Voice, it's getting better with MMS, but doesn't it still suck and have a lot of character limitations?
It works in most cases now. Like it didn't for years, but now I just got an MMS the other day on my Google Voice number from my sister, and then
I email it to them. I don't know what to tell you.
You're so what's a nicer word for old school? You're so vintage, Steven.
Okay.
I want you to have a handlebar mustache on the next show.
Yeah, it'll take me about 7 years to grow one, but I'll get right started on that.
I got a message from my sister when I was busy the other day, and I was like, oh, I'll get back to her. This was a text message. And then it went off again, and it's my cousin. I'm like, what is this? And then it's my brother, and I'm like, oh, I must be in an MMS group chat. How do I remove myself from an MMS group? Not that I wanted to. They're my siblings. I want to hear from them, but I really wanted to at that moment because I was super busy, and I couldn't. And yeah, it's old school, and it's like SMS. SMS is really old, but the nice thing about SMS is that it's simple. It sends its traffic over the control channel, so the network is not harmed. In fact, often SMS works when voice calls won't connect in times of congestion. It costs the carriers nothing. So actually, that's not a great thing because then they can gouge you on the monthly bill.
Money.
Yeah, but like MMS doesn't carry any of that simplicity. Like it's like, yeah, you can do. There used to be something called between SMS and MMS called EMS, which stood for Enhanced Messaging Service or Extended Messaging Service. Yeah, and that was like MMS without the pictures. But what its main selling point was going to be was that it would increase the character count from 160 to 1,000, and would allow for like bolds and italics and stuff. And I remember really wanting EMS because I'm a big fan of italicizing text and stuff like that. But anyway, that never happened. That was just folded into MMS. But now nobody uses that. So I just think that with all these, like when I want to send a picture to somebody quickly, I use Facebook Messenger because everyone I know is on Facebook essentially. Steven, you use email. Almost everyone has an email address. So I think MMS is pretty superfluous now. It was important back in the day when the iPhone didn't initially support it, and I was like, LOL, that's stupid. But now
SMS does its text thing very well. MMS tries to do a lot of things. I don't think any of them super elegantly, and you hit it, you get frustrated, and you're just driven to other services that do the one thing you're needing it to do, or are just general purpose enough like Facebook Messenger or email that they don't run into the same restrictions as MMS.
I think that's right. Stephen, I think that is a nice end cap too. Do you want to hit any any Q&As real quickly?
Let me see if we got anything good here.
I've got a sort of idea. Yeah, we've got some upvoted stuff here. You know what?
I want to talk about Cortana on Android. coming up.
You want to talk about
next
Cortana and
month.
Android?
Yeah, Michael Shaw is asking about it
right.
here.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be serious competition for Google now, or a hopeless effort by Microsoft? As it stands now, it's not going to be serious competition, if only because of it feels more like an extension of Windows 10 on the PC. They're not really selling it as a full-fledged service of its own. It sounds very much like you're going to need to be running Windows 10 to take advantage of this. It's not just going to be a general purpose thing, which is weird because Microsoft's been striving to make its products and services available on competing mobile platforms, sort of an effort to presumably drive users over to its ecosystem. That it's not doing the same thing with Cortana. I don't know if it means a lack of faith in the system, or if it thinks that Cortana is just strong enough that despite needing to use Microsoft's desktop OS, people will want to use it enough, they'll be drawn over to it. I don't know, but I don't think that it has the broad enough appeal to compete with Siri and Google Now.
I completely agree, especially with the latest developments coming out of WWDC concerning Google Now. I mean, if Google Now on tap works 3/4 of as well as they say it's going to, I mean, it's going to just be totally just going to change everything.
Have you used any of the new location-aware Google Now services?
Like what?
Like the thing where you can, like, you're in a restaurant and you can ask, what time does this place close? And it can figure out where you are, know that you're talking about a business, and pull up the hours operation.
Yeah,
that's available now, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. That's been rolled out, and Maps is always doing new and crazy stuff. Like I'll be driving to a place, and it'll be like, all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, it started being like, "You're on the fastest route and should arrive in 17 minutes, despite the usual traffic." And the smart rerouting and all that. No, I mean Google is really far ahead in terms of a lot of this stuff. And as much as I love Cortana on Windows Phone, I feel like Cortana is much more compelling on Windows Phone because it's your only option. That's not to undercut her, because she's so much better than Siri is. And she's as good as Google Now was, almost as good as Google Now was when she debuted. But I feel like Microsoft's been really distracted by trying to build Windows 10 for phones. And Cortana, well, I don't know. I haven't used Cortana in a while, which is because I haven't used Windows Phone in a while, because Karthik basically just asks if I've used the technical preview of Windows 10 for phones. No, I won't talk about it again. I said it earlier in the show. I've stopped using it because it's frustrating. But Karthik says, I'm using it on my 1520 and it's pretty stable performance and buggy animation. Yeah, that's why I'm not using it. I'm tired. I don't like hating my phone. Also, any feature you would love to see, I'd love to see split screen. Word, you nailed it right there. Like split screen on a 1520 is what I've been asking for since the 1520 launched. So, boomtown, excellent. Is there another one you want to hit, Stephen? Or we'll just do one more.
Dex Eve here asks about Nexus pricing, wondering what's the likelihood that the next Nexus phone will be priced competitively like the Nexus 5, or it's going to be another Nexus 6 flagship level thing. Based on the latest rumor that went about the LG 3D imaging, it sort of sounded like it would be closer to Nexus 6 level. There was mention of, I think, it being a premium device in there, and just the sort of hardware that they're throwing at it. It doesn't sound like the type of device that you could deliver at a budget price point while still having the flagship level specs we'd expect. I think it's going to try to expand on what we anticipate from a Nexus device by giving us these hardware features like the 3D scanner. Definitely a fingerprint scanner is going to be there. I don't know about the 3D, but by nature of that can help. I think it'll help justify the price in the public's eyes a little bit more. It's still too pricey for my tastes, but that's what the OnePlus 2 is for.
Word up. Well answered. And sticking with the wearables for the end of this, do you think Microsoft were right, asks Michael Shaw, to kill off the Moonraker smartwatch so they could release the Band? Moonraker, Stephen, refresh my memory, that was the Nokia concept that was going to be a Nokia smartwatch?
I missed this one.
I think that's right. And I think the Microsoft Band was a good start for like a template for OEMs to build something compelling from, but it's a shitty product in terms of its fit and finish.
But supposedly Microsoft is sticking with it. We'd get another one this year, but I don't think anyone's really their breath for it.
No, I don't like. No, unless it's a major revision. Like I say, it was a really good like Nexus product for a Microsoft wearable, say, like a platform that OEMs could look at and be like, oh, cool, these are all the sensors we can do. Okay, now let's take this apart and rebuild it into something that anyone in his right mind would actually want to wear. So yeah, so that I don't know. I'm tired. I'm cranky. You want to go?
Yeah. Let's bail. Bail.
Yeah. Stephen, thank you for putting up with all our crap today. But listeners and viewers, thank you. We did everything right. I feel like I'm on the newsroom when they drop in ratings and they're like, we did everything right. I don't understand. It's not our fault. We did everything right, and still the internet failed us. So
karma, man.
I want to like Paul Miller it for a while. Just leave the internet for a while and see if I can relearn what it's like, what life is like among the trees.
Like to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Not just screens.
But I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about that theoretically. But thank you everyone for your patience, for real. We really do appreciate it, and thank you for your continued listenership.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to do it for this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly, brought to you by lynda.com, and the high quality cut of which will be assembled by contributing editor Jules Wong, probably tweeting weird jokes you'll never understand with a wit you can't help but admire at Greenpoint0 on Twitter. Be sure to find the hosts on the Twitter sphere. Steven, I don't know if he's tweeting or not, but he's at Steven Schenk, StephenSchehnck. I'm at Captain Two Phones. It's Captain, the number 2 phones. I recently tweeted pictures of my refrigerator clean-out process, so I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, it was great. Pocketnow is there as well, and it all comes together at Pocketnow.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Xbox, wherever podcasts are heard on the web or in the world. Thanks to our sponsor at lynda.com/pocketnow, and thanks to you for listening. We'll be back with more mobile tech talk next week.